Do I have a banger for you today? This movie stars Jason Statham, who tries to hunt down a lethal assassin who killed his best friend. Trust me, you want to stay to the end for this one. In San Francisco, FBI agents John Crawford and Tom Lone are at a dock warehouse. There, the Chinese triads seem to be in a shootout with another party. The duo just kicks back as gunshots ring out behind them. Crawford is annoyed at the 2 years of work lost in minutes. They both clock their guns and jump into the deep end. They spot multiple lifeless bodies on the ground and make their way towards the gunfire. Crawford spots a bullet on the ground and is quite scared, but before he can do anything, Tom is already in the middle of a gunfight, which Crawford quickly joins. Crawford then spots a man killing another, but he runs off before Crawford could kill him. Tom takes out another assailant as Crawford walks around the dock until he is shot in the shoulder. His life flashes before his eyes until the man about to pull the trigger is shot in the face and falls into the water. Crawford quickly explains to Tom that the Yakuza hired an independent contractor to kill the triads. Ironically, the CIA used the same assassin by the name of Rogue, and he turned on his own men and killed 5 agents. Crawford shows Tom Rogue's trademark titanium shells with his uranium slugs. The police finally arrive at the scene, and the duo flash their FBI badges at them. A couple days later, Tom's wife hands the phone to him. Crawford is just telling his friend he might be a bit late to watch the game at his house. We are then introduced to Crawford's wife, Jenny. As they hang up the phone, a car pulls up outside Tom's house, and the man walks out with a pistol in hand. He immediately makes his way inside and wrestles Tom's wife to the ground, then proceeds to shoot Tom in the face and chucks him in a room with his daughter and wife. He puts 2 bullets into Tom's loved ones and sets the house ablaze. Crawford is awakened by his wife when she spots a massive police presence at Tom's. He quickly gets out of the car and flashes his FBI badge. He hears there's 3 fatalities and sees one of the corpses and almost vomits. His wife cries her eyes out as Crawford enters the house looking for clues. He spots the same shell casing as previously seen at the dock and walks out clutching it in his hand. 3 years later, a Spiker C8, for any car fans watching, pulls up to a club. Rogue jumps out and gets VIP access inside. He walks straight to the guards and slices them both open. He makes his way towards the Yakuza members and starts firing at some of them. The rest of the Yakuza pull out their pistols and press the trigger till it stops shooting. A man goes to check if Rogue is dead, but the man's dog comes back instead. But it's carrying an explosive on it, and boom. A member that's still alive sees Rogue and says treachery will not be tolerated, and bang, he's dead. Within minutes, the scene has been turned over to police. Crawford appears with the aid of another agent named Wick. And no, it's not John Wick. The movie would end in a minute if he was having a cameo. But anyways, one man seems to have survived the explosion and Crawford goes over to help him. He surgically plays doctor, and the man screams for his life when he realizes Crawford graduated from an online course. He immediately tells Crawford that it was Rogue who blew up the place. This causes Crawford to have a pretty demonic dream that night about the loss of his friend to this malicious assassin. He wakes up to find his phone ringing. When he answers, Jenny is on the other line and wants him to watch his son's basketball game. But when he says he found Tom's killer, she tells him that his obsession cost them their marriage and ends the call. Crawford makes his way to the FBI headquarters, where a man named Goy, a sniper, enters the scene. The team, including a member named Maria, go over the case. They deduce that Rogue seems to have betrayed the Yakuzas and their leader Shiro. The other criminal organization, the Triads, are led by Chong, a notorious and ruthless man. And in between the both of them is Rogue. The assassin grabs some pistols and heads out. He makes his way to Chang's mansion in California. Chong introduces his wife to Rogue and congratulates Rogue on his recent assassinations of the Yakuzas. Chong speaks to the man about loyalty, and Rogue makes sure that Chong knows he bows to no man. With that, Rogue heads off to finish the job and Chong instructs 2 men to follow him. At Shiro's estate in Japan, Shiro duels with one of his men and their katanas cling with each other continuously. The young boy manages to land a shot on Shiro. He immediately begs for forgiveness, and Shiro tells him not to worry. He then lands a dog blow to the young boy and walks off with his daughter Kira. He mentions that some horses are being shipped to San Francisco, something that Chong also mentioned to Rogue. He orders that she head to San Francisco as he doesn't trust his own. With that, she goes to secure the horses and takes off. In the meantime, Crawford makes his way into an underground fighting club and sees a man named Benny. The two head off into a room where Benny says he's got some information on Rogue. Turns out he's bullet-making man was killed, and another 2 men who specialize in facial reconstruction both died under mysterious circumstances. The 3rd surgeon seems to be missing, and the scene switches to the Triads paying off a connect they have. Now comes the good part. The so-called horses are intact and put inside trucks. Seems there is more to these cars that meet the eye, and the crew takes off. Within seconds, police officers swarm the trucks, and the men are told to relax. The cops all jump out of their vehicles and force the Yakuza onto a fence to be searched. The corrupt police captain who was bribed makes himself present and tells a Yakuza member he wants the money now. He grabs the package and tells the man everything is good to go. Then boom. The triads jump into the trucks and hijack them while Rogue watches from a distance. Within seconds, the cars had checked for their hidden cargo. And yeah, the horses were real, except they were pure gold. Rogue receives his reward of some cash, and later, the proper police officers as well as Crawford arrive at the dock to see all the dead Yakuzas. Crawford tells his men that this was a massive heist, and there's only one thing that can get Yakuza to get out of the cars without their weapons: the police, or at the very least, impersonators. The following day, the FBI team head to a restaurant where Crawford finds the corrupt captain and slams him around. He gives him a belting in the bathroom, and he tells Crawford a man he doesn't know threatened his family and specifically his kids, and he was forced to comply. As they escort the captain outside, he is hit in the chest by a bullet. Rogue ditches the gun and legs it. Crawford finally sees revenge boiling in his eyes as he chases down Rogue like his life depends on it. They do some parkour, and Crawford manages to force Rogue through a window, but within seconds the man has disappeared. At the Yakuza headquarters in San Francisco, Kira enters the office of the two head honchos and makes them both look like fools, clearly making it known she's the boss now. The following day, Crawford receives a random call by Rogue using a disguised voice. For an unknown reason, he gives Crawford the location of the stolen shipment and ends the phone. At Chang's warehouse, the FBI and police come flying onto the scene. They show Chang a warrant to search the premises, and Chang orders his man to open the door. Inside, a man stands alone and is ordered to surrender himself. It turns out to be Rogue with a passport name of Victor Shaw. Crawford walks around him and says the surgeon's done a good job, but he remembers those eyes. He interrogates the deadly assassin who remains quiet. Even when Crawford mentions how he killed his friend's family, the man stays silent. Wick returns to Crawford and says the warehouse is clean, and with that they have nothing to arrest Rogue on and are forced to leave after snapping a photo. Back at Chang's mansion, he applauds Rogue for hiding the cars before the police arrived, not knowing he was the one who called them. Meanwhile, Crawford, clearly pissed, acts out in rage and aggression, still fuming over the loss of his friend and his family. A couple days later, as Rogue plays with his gun, Chang's daughter plays with him. Her mother sees this and reminds Rogue not to mix business with family. That night in the Triad district, the Yakuza bikie pulls up in front of the Triads and makes a scene which causes the lot to follow him. The mysterious driver then lures his pursuers into the Yakuza district, who see the Triads on their turf. Immediately, the two criminal syndicates begin slaughtering one another. Rogue reveals his face from a distance to see the look on the Triads' faces as they get pummeled and beaten. He joins the fray and finally corners the final Triad. Seems Rogue didn't really listen to his parents when they told him not to play with food, but he eventually ends the boy's life. The following day, the FBI see the massacre on the street. There's only one word to fit what's going to happen next, and that is war. Meanwhile, Chang tells his men do not retaliate, as they risk everything if they fight. He then tells Rogue to make sure his wife and daughter remain safe throughout this conflict. Rogue walks up to the second-in-command, whose brother was the one that he killed, and hands him a matchbox with the location of a Yakuza safe house. At the safe house, the FBI stake the place out as the Yakuza conduct a meeting with each other. They all laugh and hang out when the FBI spots the Triads taking out a Yakuza member. They alert Crawford and the Triads, not listening to Chang's orders, enter the tea house and start killing everyone in sight. They shoot through the paper walls and kill the majority of the Yakuza as more members join the fray and get into a shootout with the FBI. The Yakuza now returns fire to the Triads, and the two teams fire continuously until the Yakuzas inside are all dead. Crawford crashes the party, and alongside Wick, they breach the tea house. Within seconds, the Triads are held at gunpoint by the FBI and are all being arrested. Then out of nowhere, boom. Rogue takes out the Triads one at a time. This distraction allows the Triads some room to move and try and escape. Maria runs for her life. Wick is shot, and Crawford is smacked down. Being the only FBI left in the tea house, everyone rushes him. They try and take him down, but his agility and skills are outstanding. He takes out man after man until he sees the final Yakuza member injured in a room. Crawford shoots him dead and runs outside to spot Rogue in his car. Obviously, he gives chase, and the two of them go flying through street after street. Rogue seems to be having quite some fun, but Crawford isn't letting his friend's killer escape. Unfortunately, though, he gets into a pretty big accident, and his car is totaled, which allows Rogue to speed away. The next day, Rogue gives Chang a call to inform him his men betrayed his orders and were all killed. Rogue says he tried to stop them but couldn't do much. Turns out Rogue is back with the Yakuzas and is ordered to kill Chang as well as his wife and child, even though he is hesitant to do so. Jenny, on the other hand, tells Crawford why there are so many men with guns outside her house. She tells him off once again and says his obsession is going to get everyone killed. Benny calls Crawford and tells him we found the third plastic surgeon in Mexico. Within hours, he is tracked down and cornered by Crawford and Benny. They hold him at gunpoint and make him talk. He says the man's face was almost torn off and he repaired the muscle and nerve tissue as well as the facial bones. He confirms that this is what Rogue looks like now. At Chang's mansion, he gets his family ready to depart. Little does he know a ninja-looking assassin enters his property. Chang starts clearing out his drawers, and his right-hand man enters and points a gun at him, saying Chang is a traitor. The two of them shoot at each other as Rogue walks in and subdues the assailant. Chang says his man was saying he was a loyal friend. Rogue tells him that he is right and puts a bullet into Chang. Simultaneously, the Yakuza men outside subdue and kill all the guards at the same time, and an FBI member reports this to Crawford. Rogue makes his way to Chang's wife and daughter, and 2 bullets go off. Outside, the Yakuza demand to see the bodies, and Rogue decides to kill the man that said that. The other men attack him, but he kills them all with ease. It seems Rogue has spared the wife and daughter and takes them to the car where he allows them to escape, keeping his promise from earlier. Crawford is alerted that Rogue is using both the Yakuza and Triads to fight against each other. Now it gets exciting. Shiro makes his way into town and tells his daughter he wants her back in Japan. Just then, Crawford makes his way towards Shiro and welcomes him to America. He shows him photos of Rogue slicing up his own Yakuza comrades and asks if he was involved. Shiro acts dumb and Crawford leaves him be. The next day, Rogue makes his way to see Shiro and holds the suitcases with the horses inside. He greets Shiro, and turns out this is the first time that the two have met. Shiro is presented with the golden horses, and Rogue is also presented with a suitcase to open. Inside he finds cash and a folder with images of his betrayal. Shiro tells his men to interrogate him to find the wife and child's location. He then smacks the horses to reveal they are fakes. Rogue, in the meantime, takes out one of the men escorting him. The other proves to be quite an adversary but is eventually killed alongside his friend. Shiro walks down the stairs and a bomb goes off which incapacitates him. Rogue then perfectly uses 4 bullets to eliminate 4 men. Shiro grabs his katana and Rogue lowers his pistol. He picks up his own katana and Shiro asks after all this time why Rogue betrayed him now. Rogue tells him because a very specific hit he ordered 3 years ago. The two then begin the duel with each other. Rogue quickly throws Shiro around like a doll and holds him at knife point. He tells him that he should have left the wife and daughter alone. Shiro manages to get up and they continue their duel with both the men copping injuries to their arms. Rogue finishes the story by saying that Tom managed to escape Rogue's hold, and when they fought, Rogue was killed. Tom then put a shot into Rogue's face to hide the fact he died. And after all these years, it turns out it was Tom who changed his face and voice to become Rogue. This was all for the sole purpose of finding and killing Shiro. But Shiro reveals that the man who gave them the information on Tom and his family, on the Triad's location at the beginning, and everything that led to this point, was Crawford. Tom then kills Shiro and has death in his eyes when he remembers his dead wife and daughter. The next day, Chang's wife receives a package. A note inside says to make a new life for herself, and as a gift, the golden horse was hers to keep. Kira, meanwhile, also receives a package. Inside was the same note. But when she sees her father inside the package, she goes into shock. Tom calls Crawford and tells him, "Do you remember the first night where they met?" That's where he wants Crawford to meet. Crawford immediately calls his sniper to tag along. He walks around the dock and calls for Rogue to reveal himself. But instead, he is quickly disarmed, and the two get into a fight with one another. They move at lightning speed, and Crawford doesn't give up too easily. They swing shovels back and forth, then go back to some grappling. Crawford puts Tom into a chokehold, and Tom says, why did he do it? What did Shiro promise for the life of his wife and daughter? And it finally hits Crawford. Rogue is actually Tom. Crawford looks deep into his eyes and knows that it's true. The two fall out of a window, and the sniper is not in range to shoot. Tom says he never thought the road of his family's killer would lead back to his best friend. Crawford asks if he can forgive him, and Tom says that Tom is dead, and when the sniper is about to shoot him, Crawford jumps in the way and is killed to protect his old friend. Some while later, Rogue gets into his car with the other golden horse and takes off onto the highway, and that's the end. If you enjoy bangers like this, then make sure to smash that like and subscribe button. See you on the next one.